Hello and welcome to a Midpoint Library Technology class. My name is Emily and today we will continue to talk about basics in Microsoft Excel. In our last video we were discussing and going over how to take one cell and copy if it was a month or a time or just a repeating thing of date or time or just a sequence of things. You can click on one item, pull from this corner tab all the way down to as far as you'd like to go, release, and it will repeat all the months of that starting from January and onward, down as far as you had selected. So we went from cells B2 to B13, doing the months of the year. You could do this going vertically or horizontally. If you end up making a mistake, so I've already have this along the top, I didn't mean to put these months here as well. There's a couple of ways that you can quickly fix your mistakes without having to delete each one manually. There are some buttons up here in your quick access toolbar that have undo the autofill, which is what we did, so we'll do that, and then redo will show up. So now, oh wait, I did want to keep that in there. You can click the redo option, and it will fill the data back in that you deleted. If you hover over these two icons, they'll show you that you'll see undo autofill, and you'll see in parentheses Control plus Z. This means that you hold down Control and hit the button Z to do that same action. So if I hit Control Z, it makes them go away. If I hit Control Y, it does the redo, making them reappear. Right now it says can't redo because I just redid, but the short key would be Control Y. So we also talked about rows and columns. We talked a little bit about having to adjust columns so that if you have numbers in a column, they might disappear like that on you and become pound signs or hashtags. You can simply extend using the right side line, hover your mouse over it at the top. Usually you'll want to do it at the top where either it's N, or if you're doing it on your rows, you'll want to do it on the bottom section of the number to adjust the height or width of your columns and rows. If there is an item that you want to copy and paste, so let's say I do some numbers here. Just some random data. And I want to copy this into the next several rows for whatever reason. Oops. I'll highlight the section I want to copy. You can do the short keys of Control C, and when you do that, a dotted moving sort of ants in a line kind of movement will appear, showing you that this is sort of your active region that you can do your next action with. In this case, I wanted to copy it. So then I can place my mouse in the section where I would like to copy that same data. So let's say I want to do that in the next few columns over. Maybe the data for those months were exactly the same, so instead of having to type them all, I just copy and paste them. To do that same action, to turn this off first, I should say, you'll want to hit Escape, and that will get rid of your moving box or section that you highlighted. So it's no longer the active cells. So now I can copy a different set of cells. And another way that you can copy is if you go up here to the ribbon, you can hover over these icons in the clipboard. Essentially what you're doing when you hit Control C or when you hit copy on a section, you're effectively holding it in an imaginary clipboard. telling it, I want to do something with this, I want to move it, I want to put it somewhere else, but I want to take it away temporarily and then do something else with it. So if I want to copy it, just like in Microsoft Word, you can hit copy, and we have our moving box again. And then you can select another area. And you usually want to put it in wherever your first box, the 123, wherever you want that first box to appear, that's where you'll want to click your mouse. So in this case, maybe I want it to be, again, in column H, but I want it to be in the next row down. So I'll click on that box, make sure that it's got the green indicator that this is our active cell. And you can come up here to your clipboard and hit paste, or you can use the keys on your keyboard and hit Control V, and it will paste that information. Now let's say I want to add something else besides just time, and maybe I want to add names or other data after the years and the months and other data that I've entered. I want to have something over here in this column. So what you can do let's say you want to add, you don't want to lose the time section, but you want to put something between it. You'll click on the area where you want to insert a column, excuse me. You'll right click on the top of that column, so where the N is. And there'll be a submenu that comes up when you right click on things. And in this case, it'll have an option here in the center called Insert. Right click, it moves that data of time over by 1. I'll zoom out a little bit. It moved it over by 1 and inserted a column between those previous two, which the column that was N is now O, and it moved it over from M, giving it a whole new column N. So this is our new, this was our time, old column, old N we'll say. And that's how you'll insert a column or row. Now let's say that I want to insert this whole row in between another row within my data. But I don't want to change the times listed here. I just want to copy this one row and insert it. So if I want to take this line and just insert it into another section of our data, but I don't want to disturb the arrangement of this column or anything outside of this area, I just want to insert data into this area that I've highlighted. I will take the section that I want to insert or copy. I'll copy it, or Control C for copy. And then I'll click where I would like to insert it. Right click. Insert copy cells. That's one of the options in the submenu that comes up when we right click. And it will ask me if I want to insert paste, and if I want to shift the cells right or if I want to shift them down. In this case, I want to shift them down. So watch what happens. I'll click OK. It moved everything down 1 after row 8, and it inserted the data that I had copied. But it did not disturb the arrangement of our list of time. Now what I might want to do, for whatever reason, I might want to continue this if it's a kind of graph or a kind of data chart that has labels or headings on all sides. But at the very least, I was able to insert information into just this section. Now what I'll do is I'm going to give this a border just so you can make sure you can see what I'm talking about. Give it a thick border. I highlighted a section and it just drew a line around the area that I want to identify without bothering any other information on the page, on the worksheet. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about basic formulas and functions in Excel. One of the major features in Excel is to analyze and calculate data. So one of the basic things you'll want to be familiar with is the formulas section and how you can do at least basic sum or averaging of your data that you have compiled. So a big part of the ribbon tab that you want to be familiar with is called Formulas, and it will list lots of different options here in the ribbon of what you can do. A big one being Autosum, which will help you quickly calculate your worksheet for a sum or an average. Right now it's listed as Autosum, but if I drop down I can also choose average, count numbers, max, min, or even more functions. When I click on that, it'll have a dialog box pop up that will give me more details of options I can try. We're just going to go over the basics today, but if you're interested in more examples or even playing around with these examples, reminder to try looking up some videos, more detailed videos of Excel about using Excel and tips and whatnot through LinkedIn Learning. At the time of this recording, we were still using lynda.com, which gives you a lot of courses to help you in your career development. But we will soon be switching, or have already switched by the time probably this is airing, to LinkedIn Learning. Again, you'll just need a library card in your PIN, and you can access tons and tons of videos, follow courses, earn certificates, and be able to add them to either your LinkedIn profile or just download the certificates and be able to use them and apply them in your everyday life or career path. Again, the video where you could get some more tips and where I got these exercise files. Oops. Sorry, the error is supposed to be over there. Was the Excel 2019 Essential Training. And just down here, you'll click on you'll click on exercise files, and you'll be able to access these and play with them yourself at home. And then the author has lots of great videos with much more detail than I can have in my video today, but definitely will give you lots more tips and tricks that you can that will help you in learning Excel. So to get in using the Autosum function, you're going to highlight a section of data that you want, and you'll want to continue that highlight all the way to the end. And if I click on it automatically, it will fill in the sum total of those numbers. So again, you'll want to highlight the area that you want to give yourself a total. In this case, I want the information in B3 through G3. So I'll highlight that area. I'll come up here to our ribbon and I'll click Autosum. It will automatically fill in the data in the next available cell, assuming that that would be your column for your totals. If I wanted to do a vertical total, I could highlight these. I can highlight B2 and B3, click Autosum, and it will automatically fill that total in the next available cell below them, just because I highlighted things in a vertical pattern. Another way you could add numbers together is by doing it manually rather than using the Autosum function. You can click in the cell where you want your total. So in this case, I'm clicking in D4. And in your function bar here, you can manually type in what you want to happen. So in this case, I'm going to type in equals. Whenever you type in equals, that basically is telling the cell how you want a formula to be performed, or that you want one to be performed at all, and how. And so you'll fill in the function. In this case, I want to get the sum of certain numbers. I can type either B2 plus B3. Oops. Or in this case, it'll be D2 plus D3. So I'm taking those two numbers, close the parentheses, hit enter, and that'll give you your total. So if I hover our active cell over that total, you can come up here and you can see in the formula bar exactly what we did. We told it that we want this cell to equal the sum of these two cells. So let's say we want to find the average of an entire row. So let's say I want the average of the overhead. I'll click in this cell. Oops. And in the formula bar, I'll hit equals. And instead of sum, I'll type average. Starting, yeah. I'll select average. Oops. So notice I hit enter too quickly, and it's giving me a error, basically a standard error message, where it has information but it's not sure what to do with it. So in this case, I want the average, but I clicked enter too quickly. When you click enter, it performs whatever function you have typed in the cell. But I was not finished typing, so we're going to keep going. Now I want it to be the average between B3 and G3. So again, you can do B3, but instead of a plus or minus sign or another one, you're going to hit colon, oops, G3. So it's that entire, and it should highlight for you in a different color the area that you have typed in, so that you get a visual reminder of, okay, this is what I'm working with. You'll close the parentheses and hit enter. Oh, it gave me another error message. Okay, so when you put in your average, I accidentally didn't have the full term. I hadn't clicked on I thought I'd clicked on the link, but I had not. So you need the full function, in this case the word average, and then in parentheses you have your coordinates, B3 through G3. The colon symbolizing, telling this software, I want this area of data put together in an average. So when you hit enter, it'll give you your average. So we have our sum total and we have our average. So let's do it again. If we type in equal and average, and this time select average, there we go. It'll give you a parentheses, and again, there's no space between the word sum or average or whatever your function is and your parentheses. And in this case, I'm doing B2 colon G2. And it gives you your average. So those are some simple ways that you can enter in your functions. Depending on how complex your functions are, you might have to play with more features, but basically a lot of your information that functions and formulas that you'll use is in this tab under formulas. You have financial, logical, date and time, mathematics and trigonometry, just so many functions that I couldn't even have enough time to talk about in one video. Let's see. The next thing you might want to try when you're working with data after you've entered in a formula for one row is you might want to repeat that same formula, but for each line of data, each row of data. So let's look at copying formulas. And what we're going to do is copy a formula into an adjacent cell. So we have two formulas here. We have a sum and we have an average. So we take both of those cells and if you highlight them and then drag this tiny box called the fill handle, just pull it down, it will copy those same formulas but for different data. So if we look at the total sums, we have sum for B2 through G2, that's B2 all the way through G2, that data. Sorry, B2 through G2. And then we want to make it for this row, which is B3 through G3. So we had just copied it. It took that same formula, but it placed it in regards to this information. Another way you can do this, I'll delete that data. So I just highlighted it and I hit the delete key, not the backspace, but the delete key. Backspace won't really do much. It will, but it'll do other functions for you. So I usually, oops, I should escape. I will usually hit delete. Thus, as you observed, when I hit the backspace to remove information in a cell, it made it all wonky. So, again, to copy, there's another way we can do this. We'll highlight. Whoops. All right, we'll highlight the two cells, the two different formulas that we want to copy. You highlight them. You can copy them, either Control C for copy, or you can hit the copy button over under the clipboard part of the ribbon. You'll go over here to editing, to this section titled editing, and you have your fill button, which again, and it shows you here, it continues a series or pattern into neighboring cells into any direction. You'll click on it and it will give you options. Do you want to put the resulting information below, to the right, above, or to the left of these two cells that we have selected? We want to put it below because we want to put it in the next row. Oop. So when I did that, unfortunately, it copied the row above because I still had it highlighted. So we'll copy this. You'll hit escape to get rid of your moving ants box. And then you'll click in the two cells that you want to fill the information. Click down, and it will take the information from above and fit it below. So again, we did the same thing as when we dragged it, as when we just highlighted and dragged and dropped it. Escape. So now we have sum for B2 through G2, sum for B3 through G3, average for H2. So the average of this total to these months, and the average total for these months. So in this average, they just implemented the formula of just dividing it, which did the same thing as typing out the average and putting in and marking each cell. Oops, let's go back. So I'm going to drag it. So here they just had equals H3, which was our total, which was the sum total of these, and just divided it by 6 because that's how many months. So either way, giving you the same answer as we had before. Now we're going to look at a feature called sorting data. To sort your text, let's say you have a worksheet that has various parts of data that you have compiled. In this case, we have employee name, building, department, their status, hire date, the years, benefits, compensation, job rating, and new compensation. So this is an employee list of their status in their job and their position at a company. So one of the features with sorting in Excel is that you can sort each of your rows without losing their place. I'll do this by example. Basically, right now we have it in order by employee name. But let's say I want to look at this by the status. So full-time, contract, part-time, half-time, whatever. What you'll do is you'll place you'll highlight one of the cells in the column that you want to sort the entire chart or worksheet by. So in this case, I want to do the status. It can be pretty random. You can click any one. And up here under the Data tab, under Sort and Filter, there's some various buttons here. You can do from A to Z, or lowest to highest, or in reverse, from Z to A, from highest to lowest. So in this case, we're working with text, so I'm going to interpret this as from A to Z. So in this case, it does the contract, those who are under contract. We scroll down. Again, this is a very long list of employees. Then we have full-time, etc. And we should next see half-time. But you'll notice if we go all the way back up and we click on under employee name and we organize them again, we have James Abbott. His information stayed the same. Now if I click by date, and we'll look for James Abbott again, we will sort this by date, which in this case is doing the most recent date. When we click A to Z, it's doing lowest high, it's doing the oldest date, and then as we go along to the most recent. So if we look for, it was 9:30. So it was James Abbott 2011. For a second I thought he's supposed to be here and I got confused. But it's supposed to be in 2011. So if we scroll down and back up and we work our way to 9:30 and we see James Abbott and all of the information for that employee. So again, it only organized the data by the date that we select, by the column, by the heading that we selected. So if I go back up and we can do compensation, we can filter it from Z to A, or in this case, highest to lowest. We can do it for number of years of service. So in this case, highest or most years to, and we've put it in reverse, to the fewest. You'll notice over here there was a small bit of other data or another heading. That hasn't changed. Our headings have not changed. It's only been the information underneath those headings and within this area. Now if we had something in this column, it would affect all of these, but because there is a gap, Excel understands it that we only want the active data under these headings, and that that this information is all connected. So there are some potential issues definitely with formatting if there's both text and numbers in a cell in a part of data. So definitely check your data and make sure that everything is in the format that it needs to be. Otherwise, sometimes the sorting function might have some problems. You can definitely check on Microsoft's help page, or you can for any sort of questions or specific errors that you might come up against when doing that. But that's just a basic way to sort through mass amounts of data, so you don't have to keep looking over and over for each different column of information. Next, we'll look at how to filter your data. So let's say that we want to look at a similar list of information of employees and their employee history and whatnot. Let's say that we want to look at employees who have been here for between 5 and 10 years. To do that, we could filter out the data of those who don't fall into that range. So to do that, well, again, we'll click in the column that we want to work with. So in this case, we want to work with the number of years they've worked. And up here under Sort and Filter, there is the Filter option, which you can also do Control-Shift-L if you want to have a short key option for that. But we'll click the button, and it will have these arrows in each of the headings. And we'll click on it to get options. If it was text, it would be it would say text filters, but in this case we're working with numbers, and it sees that these are all numbers, so it says number filters. But just depending on which type of characters you're working with, text or numbers, that will affect what this says. So in this case we want to go, you have lots of options here, so depending on what you're trying to look at to filter out unnecessary data. In our case, we're going to go between, and it will have a box pop up that will help you to put in that information. So in this case, we want to do 5 and 10. So years is greater than or equal to 5, and is less than or equal to 10. Again, you can play with these options depending on what range you're looking at, what you're trying to do to filter out the data. It's not getting rid of the data permanently, it's just helping you see the data clearly. We'll click OK, and now it shows us only 5, 9, 6, 8, there's a 10, and then we can even put this in order. So I can look at the most. So we have a few 10s, we have several 9s, etc. So again, it just helps filter out the old data. Now to go back to our original set of data so we can see everything, you go back up to Sort Filter, you just click on Filter, and it gets rid of it, or it brings everything back into view. So it didn't delete anything permanently, it just took it out of view temporarily. So we'll wrap it up for today, and or at least for this video. Be sure to check out our next technology class, Excel Basics video, where we'll continue to discuss some basic features in using Excel. Thanks for joining me, and have a great day.